What is my overall vision for a thriving Edmonton? Born and raised in Edmonton, my family's journey began in the early 1900s. I've seen Edmonton as a thriving uh, business community, the city of champions we were once known as. It's degraded to a point, I refer to it as dysfunctional. The integration of LRTs, bike lanes, and other modes of transportation that interrupt the roadway system. The roadway system is the artery that feeds the community financially. The consumer needs to be able to spend, but that's been interrupted. So how do we achieve stability in a thriving Edmonton once again is we must address the roadway system inefficiencies. We must. On my campaign, the LRT is a focus, and I'm offering a plebiscite to stop the unnecessary spending and get back to basics and fundamentals. What are my focus on public services with regard to the city of Edmonton? Interesting. I think the city of Edmonton is trying to do too much to too many. And again, we become overburdened with taxations and change. So when you talk about, we talk about fundamentals and we talk about the basics in our society, we're trying way too hard to do way too much. But the end result is taking away from the greater focus of the city, which is stability. So uh, I think that we need to calm down. We need to take a break from change and get back to basics. That might be hard for some people to do because we've been entertained by the federal government financially. As long as they're willing to spend, we're willing to take. But I don't see that as the best interest to the city of Edmonton. Well, I think it's a great way to have to collaborate with business and industry, and I think for employment, I think it's a great idea to have private and public partnerships. I think it's a wonderful strategy to involve that partnership can offer a lot of employment, and we need that. The city of Edmonton needs that. One of my priorities for Edmonton with regard to transportation is to stabilize the roadway system and eliminate obstruction. It's my understanding through the governments, we're willing to spend billions of dollars on infrastructure, LRT, bike lanes, and allowing other modes of transportation on our roadway systems. Again, I go back to the roadway is the artery that feeds the heart. And the heart at one time was a business community creating jobs and wellness within our community. And to stabilize the roadway system is critical. I see areas in the city of Edmonton, for example, quite possibly the downtown core, quite possibly White Avenue, where bicycling isn't even allowed. And today the focus is to allow bicycling. But unfortunately, there's an element where enforcement can't control the bicyclist, but they can control the automobile. So I believe that enforcement, if they're involved in this conversation, they would have their comments might be surprising to you. Is that how do we control the environment if we can't control bicycling? How are we going to do that? Our roadway system needs to be re-identified, and changes need to happen in order to stabilize uh, for economic stability. Do I agree with campaign finance, changes to campaign finance regulation? You know, it's interesting because once I got into the campaign, I didn't really realize the restrictions that were in place. I can't totally disagree with it. I had a discussion with someone today about whether the city of Edmonton should be putting on mayoral forums or should it be left to the private sector. But here's what I found. If you're not one of the top 4 candidates in the private sector putting on mayoral forums or forums for city councilors, what have you, is you may not be invited to some of those forums. So I believe the city of Edmonton, in this case, possibly the city of Calgary, should be responsible to provide mayoral forums that every candidate has their say, and every candidate has the opportunity to present their case. And I support free speech, and I think there's something's missing when we go to privatization of promoting the candidates in this way. So I'm not sure we're doing the right thing there. But as far as some of the other criteria is involved in campaign restrictions, laws, or what have you, I think I'm okay with it. I think the restrictions are they're okay. I think if there's an authority that needs to audit, then I think it should be open. Outside of that auditing, I think it should be. I don't see any reason why there should be any other regulation toward that. I don't. Well, that's a real issue. We're talking about homelessness and housing in the city, and the way I see it is we're spending billions and billions of dollars on infrastructure that's unnecessary. And here, all the markers in the city of Edmonton, you want to talk about how we gauge municipal success would be crime, unemployment, business failure, homelessness, suicide, substance abuse. So homelessness is an issue that needs help, big time, because of our weather and our climate is really one of the issues. But I see us spending money so unnecessarily in other departments. For example, in LRT, is it a want or is it a need? Homelessness is something that needs help, and it must be addressed. And here we're spending money in areas that really aren't a necessity. So I think that collaboration with the Medicine Hat model and the Canadian Alliance of Homelessness have done excellent work. And I think the city of Edmonton is part of that as well. But I think we can do so much better. But I think we need to stop spending money in areas that just aren't necessary and start looking after our own. That would be the homeless. Well, I'm not, so to address the spending or the financial issues between the province and the city of Edmonton, and that question you left out was the federal government. And the federal government is pushing upon us a society we cannot maintain. So I look at the federal government, and in this case it happens to be the Liberal. And the Liberal federal government has a spending issue. But they're wanting to push upon us massive debt through excessive expenditures. And when we talk about the province, I see them to be a little more responsible that way. But we must reel in spending. We must run a tighter ship, and the taxpayer, at some point in time, this is going to come home to haunt the decisions that have been made. You cannot continue to spend irresponsibly, and I call this irresponsible. So from a fiscal perspective, we really need to be committed to budgeting and short-term forecasting, not long-term, but short-term. Not really, just that we must become more responsible in who we're voting for. And we must look at the financial picture. And just because someone wants to give you $1 million, you have to understand that you're going to have to pay that $1 million back if you accept it. And municipalities need to be able to say no. We must run a tighter ship and become more fiscally responsible. and it's in the best interest of the taxpayer within the city of Edmonton. So if I was to say one thing is vote for someone who's responsible and has a fiscal focus. And Rick Comrie's my name. Vote for Rick Comrie on October 18th.